Welcome back to On Texas Basketball. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton. We've got a lot to talk to, and this edition of On Texas Basketball is brought to you by Advanced Pain Care. We'll tell you a little bit more about Advanced Pain Care here shortly during the program. Gerry, let's start with this. Sean Miller's building this roster. A lot of ads out of the portal. It's a roster that's already getting some love as a top 25. Dare I say, Gerry, a top 20 team if we're looking at one of these way too early top 25s for next season.
Yeah, the way too earlys are out. I think Gary Parrish of CBS has Texas number 20. ESPN has Texas 24. There's another one that has Texas number 24. And I think, look, I think first of all, it's a respect in the coaching community and those that talk to other in our industry on the media side that talk to college coaches that Sean Miller's just really good basketball coach. So Texas is going to get a bump from that to start because of his history of success. But then you have, look, what does this roster look like with 3 spots left to go? And we're going to get into that. Look, it's impressive what Sean Miller's done with his 3 portal additions and then player retention. Tremont Mark, Jordan Pope, double-figure scores in the SEC. There's a look at the roster right now. Obviously, Matas is 7-foot center. That was the AAC freshman of the year. Dalen Swain, I think, is a future first-round NBA draft pick coming over from Xavier. Camden Hyde is a very athletic 6'7" wing forward that can really shoot the 3 at 39%. So you see there that, look, Tremont Mark, Jordan Pope, Dalen Swain, Matas were all double-figure scorers a year ago, right? And then you have Camden Hyde, who had some really good games for Purdue. I think his numbers are going to go up. I think Kendall Weaver's numbers will go up in this offensive system. So Texas is getting the benefit of the doubt because of their roster right now and Sean Miller as a coach and his offensive system and his reputation for player development. So when you got 3 guards coming back off a team that went to the NCAA tournament, Dalen Swain was in the NCAA tournament, Camden Hyde's playing a national title game and a Sweet 16 game as well, then Matas has a lot of upside ability at center. You have the makings of a pretty good roster. And the young bigs, Jamie Vinson, Nick Cody, and John Clark, are not without talent. Those guys just need some more developmental work. And, Cody and Vinson going into year 2, one of those guys is going to end up being a good role player for Texas. And then John Clark, the freshman, has been training with TJ Ford for years and years. He missed his senior year with a broken pinky on a shooting hand, missed the majority of his senior year. So the roster looks really good right now, considering there's 3 scholarship spots left, Jeff, and if they hit on these last 3 spots, and I think 2 will be really impactful on the team, that they might move up even more in these way too early lists.
Yeah, Gerry, before we get to that, I want to talk about style of play, which we talked a lot about when the hire was made. And you look in the SEC, Florida just won a national championship, and we talked about how good of an offensive coach Todd Golden is. You expect Mark Pope to be better, at least from a talent standpoint. Year 2 at Kentucky, we know what he can do. Bruce Pearl at Auburn, they play fast. Even Chris Beard at Ole Miss, I mean, it's not just kind of that grinded out style. He had a really good lead guard with Sean Padula, and they could run and put up points. John Calipari with his talent at Arkansas. Gerry, as we get further away, and look, I don't know how much, and I know Kelvin Sampson coaches in the Big 12. I don't know how much longer guys like Rick Barnes and Kelvin Sampson are going to do this. But as those guys kind of, for lack of a better term, age out of the coaching profession, the game feels, Gerry, like it's getting faster. It's getting more up tempo. It's more mimicking the NBA game, which tells me it just reinforces that, Sean Miller probably was the right hire, not just for what's going to win in the SEC now, but for where this program needs to go in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, one of the reasons I'm so high on the Sean Miller hire, outside of all the things in recruiting international players, which is a bigger part of college basketball now, those guys are coming over even a year or 2 older now with more experience playing against older guys. So they're really impact guys in the college game. And that ability to build rosters of Sean Miller is he's adapted as a coach offensively. And he said it in this press conference. He used to be more about defense, rebounding. I like the guys who are adapting as the game changes. And Sean Miller's done that. He's gone from a guy that would play in the mid to upper 60s and lower 70s Arizona. Now he's wanting to play in the high 70s, 80s in games. In the first year he came into Xavier, when they went to the Sweet 16 and lost to Texas, still got to the Sweet 16 after Fremantle's injury, was that team improved 8 points per game in 1 year. And so that's one of the things we typed great threads on Texas football about basketball stuff right now, and we'll have. That's one of the things to look at when the numbers say Tremont Mark averaged 11 points per game and Jordan Pope averaged 10 points a game. Well, the key is what can he unlock for those guys in his offensive system? It's going to be more 4 out, 1 in, more movement based, right? The more players play on the move, the more they're going to score versus isolation basketball. They're going to get better shots, higher percentage shots, better offensive efficiency. And then you look at what does Matas do? His second year in college. I mean, he had a really good first year. His last few games of freshman were really good. So Sean Miller's he's adapted to the game. He's had teams that are averaging upper 70s, around 80 points per game now. He is the guy that's built for the modern day college basketball because you already know he can build a complete roster. He did that at Arizona when he was at a power program, and he does it through international players as well. But he's adapted his coaching style to fit today's game. And you know he's going to get the players around it. That's one of the reasons I'm really high on this hire.
Jerry, whether it was the Fremantle injury 2 years ago or the Lucina Traore injury this last year, the last 2 Sean Miller Xavier teams weren't complete teams. But you mentioned that Sweet 16 team. That team was 8th in the country. If you look at KenPom, that team was 8th in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency and 33rd nationally in adjusted tempo. So not only were they really good on offense, they could get out and run. And I think that just gives you a taste of what Sean Miller could do, especially something we talked about too, Jerry, as we get into talking about what's left for this staff, the number of combo guards that they've got, guys that can facilitate offense, guys that can handle the ball. It's not a ball dominant point guard type deal right now, but you've got Tremont Mark, Jordan Pope. You're going to have multiple guys on the floor that can handle the ball and distribute.
Yeah, and Dalen Swain, you can initiate offense with Dalen Swain as a combo forward. He's got that type of ball skill. It's why the NBA really likes him. So yes, I totally agree. And look, and I'm not saying you're going to win a national title or anything, but look at Florida. If you want to look at where college basketball is at and why Todd Golden did such a good job, Walter Clayton wasn't a true point guard. He was a league. He was a shooting guard, scoring guard, developed into a combo guard, and this last year was his first year as kind of a lead guard, but he's not what people consider a pure point guard.
Right.
Aberdeen off the bench, combo guard, right? So today's day and age, positionless basketball, you don't have to have a pure point. You don't have to be the biggest team. You just have to build a roster with a combination of all of it, and that's the key. And I think that's what Sean Miller's doing. You know, you mentioned Tremont Mark and Jordan Pope are combo guards, and they've done it in the SEC. Tremont Mark 2 years in a row in the SEC. So those guys they're gonna play well in Sean Miller's system, and I think they'll play better. I think we could see a Tremont Mark that puts up numbers closer to what he did at Arkansas under Musselman. And I think Jordan Pope will be a better player offensively in this style. But again, I think one of the key things left, Jeff, for Texas basketball and Sean Miller right now is the next combo guard they add, whether that be a college portal guy or an international player, which that's a part of all these recruiting processes for the Texas basketball moving forward. If they hit on that guy and they have 3 combo guards, and maybe this guy is the better distributor of the 3, Texas is set up to be really good in year 1. We'll see we'll see if they hit on that guy. There's a couple of specific guys out there. If they hit on them, then Texas is going to really elevate. And they have multiple guys who can initiate offense. They can run offense through.
Yeah, Jerry, I just go back to for a Texas fan, if you need an example of what that looks like, just go back to the Elite Eight team a couple of years ago. Who was the point guard on that team? I don't know. It didn't matter because Tyrese Hunter, Jabari Rice, and Marcus Carr could all handle the ball. And you had Timmy Allen who could facilitate offense from the high post. Dessou could do that a little bit. So multiple guys. We talk about positionless basketball. This is essentially what it looks like. And Jerry, you've got guys on this roster that can do it, but let's go ahead and get specific into what's left and what Texas might look to add. Look, we haven't been shy about this. You haven't been shy about reporting this on Texas football and here on the channel. Lucina Traore, who Long Beach State transferred to Xavier, knee injury in the preseason, sat out the whole year. In the portal, you haven't been shy about mentioning that Texas leads for him.
Yeah, I think they lead probably considerably for Traore. He's a guy that Sean Miller coveted out of the portal, out of Long Beach State. He averaged a double-double 2 straight years there. He was doing extremely well. There's some quotes out there from Sean Miller when Traore went down with injury that he was the most improved player on the team. He was in fantastic condition. He had become their best rebounder, post defender, rim protector on their team. Well, when Sean Miller speaks that highly about a player when he gets hurt and he jumps in the portal, that's a pretty clear sign that Sean Miller is going to go after that guy. And I think that will happen. And I'll be surprised if he doesn't end up at Texas. That's another 6'10", 240, 245-pound interior player. And suddenly, if that happens, when that happens, you're sitting there and you have Matas at 7 foot. You have Traore, again, if that happens, at 6'10". And then the guys behind him have height and length as well. And then you have a mismatch 4 who can also play wing and a 4 out, 1 in Dalen Swain. So you have more height, you have more length, you have more versatility.
Jerry, we'll get back to the roster in just a minute, but I mentioned our sponsor at the top, and here's a message from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Jerry, the rebounding ability of Traore intrigues me because we've seen Texas be, quite frankly, lacking in that area. Offensively, it's second chance points. It eliminates second chance points for the other team. You get the ball back quicker if you want to play faster. It's quicker if it's one shot and done. I just like the potential, Jerry, if they get Traore, of this Texas team being a much better rebounding team than some of the Texas teams we've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think the key to being a really good rebounding team nowadays in college basketball, because of the pace of play, is not necessarily, who are your 2 starters? No, it's, do you have multiple guys? That every guy that plays a center power forward can come in and rebound the basketball for you. And do you have one of those wings who can rebound the basketball for you? Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at this Texas roster right now, if you add Traore to it, Camden Hyde can get athletic rebounds. Dalen Swain averaged 5.6 rebounds in the Big East last year in year 2 of college basketball. Matas was a 5.4 rebound per game guy in 17.8 minutes. Traore, if he plays 20 minutes a game, is going to grab you 6-7 rebounds. You have multiple, and those young guys, they're coming on. They're going to be there. They're going to be able to fight for rebounds outside of the area. They're going to have length and athleticism. So you're going to have guys, multiple guys who you can bring in who can rebound the basketball from multiple spots. That takes pressure off your guards to be part of the rebounding. And if you can go grab defensive rebounds and your guards aren't having to go to the paint to be part of that fighting for rebounds, then what does that enable you to do? Play faster going the other way. So the more guys you have come in waves that can clear boards gives you a chance to play consistently with pace.
I felt like the Texas team, Jared, the Max A. Smith, Dylan DeSue team, one of the kind of the gifts and the curse that they had, I felt like Tyrese Hunter, for a guard, rebounded his position really well. The problem was he was one of your better rebounders, and what's Tyrese Hunter best at? Using his speed to push the ball, and he dominates tempo in a basketball game. It's tough to do that if you're as you said, having to hang out in the lane and be a rebounder.
Yeah, no doubt, and that's the kind of the point. But I'll say this though, but Tremont Mark can rebound the basketball.
Yeah,
right. If this last combo guard has enough size, he will be able to contribute to that. But to your point, where you can really push tempo and be effective is when you have multiple guys that can rebound the basketball and your guards don't have to go crash all the time. And if your guards don't have to crash all the time, you can hit outlet passes at the 25, 30-foot range, and then you can go and you can create numbers and you can put a defense in position where transition defense becomes a premium. So then what does that do? This is where basketball is such a great sport. If a coach is worried about his transition defense against you because you rebound well and can get the outlet pass out and guards go, what does that do? It causes them to take one less guy from the offensive glass and get somebody back in transition. And if you can keep everybody from crashing the offensive boards, that's a really good spot to be as a team. because again, then if you have your opponent worried about you clearing rebounds and getting out in style of play, pace of play, then they're probably going to send one less guy to the offensive glass. And if they do that, that limits their second chance opportunities.
Jerry, we talk about this last combo guard spot. Do you think this staff wants a shooter, a ball handler, or are they at the point where, hey, they can be picky and just look for the best guy available that fits their style of play?
I think they're going to be picky, but I think he's got to be both, and he needs to be 6'3", probably, or taller. And again, you're like, well, that's almost, are you looking for the perfect player? And you're looking for a guy, he can't be a non-shooter, right? Because Kendall Weaver's not a high-level shooter. So that Jordan Pope is, Mark is, Camden Hyde is, Dalen Swain's improving in that area. So you have one guard who's a it doesn't mean Kendall Weaver won't make shots, but he's not a guy that people are really going to fear necessarily. Yeah. You can't have two of those guys on the court at the same time. And that's death to offense. So this guy has to have ball skills. He's got to be able to initiate offense and run offense. He can't be a non-shooter, and he needs to be 6'3". The other key to that is what was the weakness of the Max Asmus, Tyrese Hunter team? They were both 6 feet tall. Jordan Pope's a 6-foot guard. Texas does not want a second 6-foot guard unless he's an absolute difference maker. So I expect the guy to be more in that 6'3" range. Can't be a non-shooter. Has got to be a threat from three. But I think number one with that size is the ability to ball handle and initiate offense.
Can we go back and clone Jabari Rice, Jerry? Because he sounds like he'd be a perfect fit for
I wish. And Sark wants to clone Rashawn Johnson too, right? I mean, those guys are hard. The guys that are accepting of a sixth-man role, that have great leadership and will play within that role when they can go somewhere else and be a starter, that's going to be really hard to find. That's why, look, international, if they could pull that off, makes a lot of sense. Because guys jump in the portal. They're jumping in the portal to go be the man a lot of times and go to a better situation than they were in. Well, you already have Tremont Mark, Jordan Pope, and Kendall Weaver. So finding that mix may be easier internationally than in the portal.
Jerry, one guy real quick I just want to mention because he's still on the roster. That's Malik Presley. We didn't see him last year. A kid from down the road in San Marcos, signed with Vanderbilt, was there for a year, was at Texas last year. Could Malik Presley be their developmental guy? Assuming they find a combo guard they really like, could they just decide, hey, no, Malik Presley is going to be our developmental guy?
I think maybe he plays behind Camden Hyde. That's kind of where I see him. But a lot depends on how much he develops here with Sean Miller and the staff. And because, look, he's got to be a threat to shoot the basketball. Right now, he's a slasher. He's got good length. He's got good height. He's 6'5" with long arms. He can put the ball on the floor. He's more of a slasher. He's got to be a better free throw shooter, and he's got to be enough of an offensive threat to where you can put him out there. Again, if you're bringing guys off the bench and Kendall Weaver's like your energy guy off the bench, it's hard to play in two non-shooters together. That's the hard thing. So how he's developed his offensive game and how he develops his offensive game here under Sean Miller this summer, I think it's going to be key for Malik Presley.
Yeah, that was the problem last year. Their second unit, you could tell even early in the season, that second unit, especially when Tremont Mark was battling the injury, they were going to struggle to score, and that became a problem. One more thing, Jerry, real quick. John Clark, you're really familiar with him and his background. He's a TJ Ford guy. We talked about the injury. What do you think? What's the upside for John Clark at the end of the day?
I think John Clark can be a pro. I really do. I've seen him up close. He's almost 6'9". TJ trains those guys like guards, so he can put the ball on the floor. He can play facing the basket. He makes the right reads. He can ball screen and understand reads as the screener. And he's got a physical frame. He's not a guy that slide a build. Now he's probably 6'8"3/4, almost 6'9", and I don't know, 225, 230. So he's not a slide of frame kid. But he's been developed as a face-up player, guard player, because that's what TJ does with those guys, kind of the European model. He did the same thing with Robert Miller, who's a freshman at LSU, who I think has a bright future as well. The whole key there is developing one go-to move in the post and answering the physicality of rebounding the basketball in the SEC. He's athletic enough to do it. Once he gets in there and gets accustomed to the game. Look, I think missing his senior year is going to set him back a little bit. It's just 30 games playing at Link Prep, and that's a lot of time missed on the court. But I do think his upside is there. And I think he's a guy who, and I'm not saying NBA draft pick necessarily, you don't really know unless the guy's at the Trey Johnsons of the world, right? Coming out of high school. But I think this guy can have a pro future on some level.
Jerry, we'll finish up talking about Vic Schaefer and the Texas women. They've lost a couple people on their roster to the portal. Rory Harmon is coming back, though. And beyond Rory Harmon coming back, I think we forget they've got a Leah Crump coming in. They've got a McDonald's All-American. Jerry, how you see her fitting into this mix with Rory Harmon coming back, Brianna Preston coming off of a good year, you return the SEC Player of the Year. How do you think this mix looks for Vic Schaefer in the 25-26 season?
Well, Leah Crump, I've watched a lot of her, whether it be YouTube or Huddle or a McDonald's Women's All-America game. She's a legit 6'6'1", so she brings height to the guard position. She's not. I think she's ranked top 10 in the country, right? She's a really good player, but she's not a volume player, so that makes her a really good fit. Mm-hmm. She's not going to come in and be fighting Madison Booker and Jordan Lee for field goal attempts. I think that makes her a really good fit. I think she understands the game, and not being a volume player offensively, it allows her to play off players really well. And I think that helps her adapt as a young player. And as she develops her game, I think she'll become more of a volume player, but not really volume like 18, 19 field goal attempts a game. But I think she'll continue to develop in that way. But I think her height, her length, she makes good reads with the basketball, which I think is key in the half court. So I think she's going to add a lot without taking field goal attempts away from Madison Booker and Jordan Lee on this team next year. And I think that's really key.
All right. We'll keep you up to date on everything going on with the basketball program on the 40 acres here on the channel over at ontexasfootball.com and on Instagram, on Texas Basketball Instagram account. Jerry, we've got graphics, all kinds of good stuff going on over there. So if you're on Instagram, at On Texas Basketball on Instagram. Again, I want to big thanks to our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Basketball, Advanced Pain Care. And Jerry, thank you for your time and the knowledge as always. For Gerry Hamilton, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, hook 'em.